Hello, my diverse audience. Welcome to another one of Valerie's diverse interviews. Today's guest, I actually saw him on TV. So I was watching Hulu, which I rarely do, and a Walden University commercial went on my screen featuring a man named Desmond Pittman. He was talking about how he used his degree to help open up a community center that can influence kids by the thousands. That part of his narrative got me asking myself questions like, what is he doing exactly and how is he doing it? I knew I had to interview him. Desmond Pittman is a current Doctor of Education student and has a master's in education from Walden University. He is an experienced practitioner of the teaching profession with over 10 years of dedication to serving students, their families, and communities. He states that his purpose and mission is to inject a love for literacy into populations who don't understand the power of knowledge or its ability to shape/reshape a person's life. So here's the interview. Desmond, I'm aware that you want to revolutionize the school system as well. What does changing the school system look in your eyes? Does it have to do with implementing practices in education to remove some sort of inequality in the system?
Okay. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for having me, on your show, taking the time out to speak with me. Valerie, I think it's very noble what you are doing and what you set out to do in your future in your line of work of journalism, publications, and all type of things where you highlight the work that people are doing on the ground level. A person such as myself, I won't show so much of it. I'm not a very. It's kind of an oxymoron, right? It's kind of strange. I am a social change agent, and I'm always in society, but I'm not a social media person. I like to kind of let the work be done, and then those who want to shine a light on it, then the work is done for you to shine a light on it. And that was what Walden University did. I'm always shouting out Walden University. We've been lockstep, hand in hand for about a decade, and they've been following me and chronicling and documenting a lot of the work that I've done over the past decade. I started community work in 2010, and sometimes when you start things, you never knew where it's going to take you. I knew I had a mission to save kids. That was like my resurgence in life. And Walden University, the learning platform and everything that they offered me, it gave me more ammunition to learn about my passion. I think that was very helpful. A lot of people have a passion and they want to go at something but may not know the right ways to go about it. And a lot of the researching that I did, I was able to learn different examples of social change, different things that people did that may no longer be here with us, and study the reason why it wasn't successful and try to bridge other people together so that a lot of the things that were successful in the past, such as education, we can start to experience some more of that success.
So Walden University, you said that it was they stand with you as social change agents.
Yes.
So what does that mean exactly?
So I thought it was interesting as well in 2010 when I wanted to pursue higher education and start working on my master's degree. I researched different schools, and just like a business company, you want to research their vision statement and their mission statement and see if it aligns to what you have planned and what your passion is. So when I saw Walden University become a social change agent, that was something that resonated with me, because coming from my society or my community in New Orleans, I understand that things needed to change. There's a lot of things that needed to change about society. And for a university to base its whole vision and mission around it, I thought it was a calling for me, and it's been a perfect marriage ever since. So the school system, the way it's set up now, it would be really hard to change a lot of the policies, a lot of the practices that's been in place for decades. And it's almost like a perfect design. It's where you ask yourself, is it really set up for every kid to really succeed and to really get that education that they so desperately need? So in so many words, it needs to be alternatives. That's what I would say, because in every school, you're going to have at least 5 to 10% of kids to really, regardless of what you put in the school. I mean, we can make a lot of changes with staffing, with professional development, the requirements to become a teacher. Those requirements are very, very stringent. And I think that there are people who are capable, who have the passion to be teachers, but because of the requirements, those special people who can really get to the kids, they don't get the opportunity to get to the kids as they did prior to, if you want to say 1954, when the revolution to switch the way the school system was, when that was, it started changing there, and it went from people in the neighborhood teaching the kids, somebody they can trust, somebody that they, you outside playing ball, and it's the person that's telling you, put your shirt on or pull your pants up, and that's a person that can also discipline you. So the way things were, it was a lot better than now, because a lot of the relationships in the public school system, I think that's a big thing that fell through with a lot of the politics and policies coming into play. It's those relationships in the classroom that are missing. So in order to get the most important thing, the relationships back, I think alternative methods of education need to take place. I think we need to be more private schools, more type of community-based education, starting at the early age of 3 or 4, possibly earlier.
Can you explain Dominion? Because I think that we haven't introduced that yet. What is Dominion Prep School?
So Dominion Preparatory School is located in Acres Homes. It's been there for decades. So when I came along, my thing was, because again, I had been doing community work prior to coming to Dominion. I was introduced by a former coworker about the things that was going through the church at Dominion. And I thought about, okay, how about I join all of the resources that I've gathered, whether it's the businesses. I have businesses that sponsored my nonprofit organization for years. I have people who volunteered. So how about I tie all of these people and resources into one place? And that is the essential definition of a community center. And then getting back to that, it takes a village to raise a kid. So it's a lot of different professionals, business owners, and stakeholders in one location, providing resources and alternative methods and means of education, and also training to kids and teenagers. At Dominion, we start taking kids, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, because we have the daycare set up as well to the private school and the community center. So what we do, we're basically taking the babies out of the cribs and putting them through education all the way through employment. So our model that we have working at Dominion, I think is a good model, and I would like to share that model as like a blueprint to follow and copy in communities all across the United States, to where we see the lowest graduation rates, we see the highest incarceration rates for juveniles, and all the way up throughout their high school career. So that alternative, it'll be an alternative setting. It doesn't have to be the biggest, prettiest building. It doesn't have to have people who, again, like myself and my other teaching colleagues, went to college so long, studied, have higher degrees. I think a high school degree will do.
So is your nonprofit Dominion Prep School, or is there another one?
No, my nonprofit is Pittman Sports Association.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't see it online or anything.
Yes, I don't, like I said, I don't have a website on social media, whatnot. I just do the work and keep the work going, and very thankful for, again, Walden University shooting a commercial. I think it's important to have positive images of black men, especially on TV, who are not entertaining. I'm not an entertainer. I'm not into entertainment at all. But spreading a positive message in the midst of so much negativity and so much programming actually that is going on that our kids have to do. So again, to get the kids away from the social programming and social engineering, we understand that there's a method why skills and trades were taken out of schools, culinary workshops. We understand why that was taken out. That's a long story that is, it becomes tiresome to even talk about. why and the what's and all that. We understand why. We don't need to talk about it. We need to continuously plan solutions to help the kids who are lost in the gaps.
Can you give me a little bit more detail of Pittman, what is it, Pittman
Sports Association?
Yes, because I'm into nonprofits.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted to make one. I just don't, I don't really have an idea of what exactly I want, but it's so interesting to me when people choose that and then, go for it, because like a lot of people are afraid to make nonprofits due to like them not being able to like maybe make a living,
So that's the difference. If you are able to run a nonprofit and still have a day job such as myself, then I think that you can do a lot more of what you want to do and not have to, let's say, go about it in a monetary way. I think there's been an advantage to what I do in the community. I've never looked to prosper off of it or make any deals or whatnot or so much. It's just volunteering under a protected umbrella. So somebody would like to donate or somebody would like to join, there's already structure and there's already paperwork put in place so everybody is protected, and we can move as we want to, as I say, because again, this isn't my 9 to 5, it's more like volunteering, so exactly what I want to do is what I'm going to do.
So circling back to alternative ways of schooling, so I've always thought about that. I've always been it's like I've never had a label for it or like an idea where I wish that I could have been taught in a place where I was more in tune with nature, in a place where I was not only, outdoors more, but I was also introduced more into the real world, where I could learn real ways of like whatever we're learning in school, how to like interact with society, and yeah, so I always felt very kind of like, I felt very sheltered, like even in school, and like I just felt like something wasn't right, like I just felt kind of like in a jail almost sometimes. Like I was like, oh, like come on, let's change something. Like it's every day the same people, the same building. Like we're learning all these things that like we're able to implement into our lives later on after graduation. But how is that even gonna look like? For me, I kind of snapped when I graduated was because my brain just didn't. I don't know. I felt like I was in the school system for so long that when I got out of it, I didn't know what to do.
So what I would say is a lot of the schooling, I take it back to my growing up in New Orleans, a lot of the actual schooling and things that I can apply, it was taught to me by the people in my community. It was taught to me by my mother, by my father, by my grandparents, by my uncles, by my cousins. They taught me what was applicable to survive in my situation. I think that, but it takes a person from that situation, from that environment that understands what's needed and what to give the kid, because the kid's always going to take and receive what's needed. So a lot of what is taught through the public school structure actually isn't needed, and it isn't applicable to their situation, their community. There isn't much set curriculum on conflict resolution, on character development and character education. You get that from your community. You're supposed to get those things from your community. If there is no family member, like I said, luckily for myself, a lot of the principles and values that I stand on today, I learned from family members. But what happened when the kid doesn't have a huge family? What happened when that kid is a refugee and came here just with their mother, or just with a one family unit, and doesn't speak the language? So I think a lot of that falls on the community. So that alternative forms of education falls on the community more so than it does on the public school system, because the system is going to be the system. It's going to work how it's going to work. A lot of people are frustrated with it now. A lot of teachers are leaving the field. A lot of people are running from it because of the way it was structured. So a lot of doors need to be open for those highly educated people who still want to make a way for the kids.
Yeah. No, I think about that a lot, about the alternative ways, because I'm like, what is this called? New ways of implementing education, That's what I wanted. So I always think about like what is this theory? Like what are my thoughts trying to tell me? What am I trying to like create here in my head? And it's exactly what you said. And then I'm thinking like, like a place where like you can understand more of like what's really going on around you instead of like being so like kind of locked up in like, you know, in a certain situation. Let's move into school to prison pipeline. So I know that you've researched that a lot through education at Walden, and that you're very familiar with that topic. So would you tell me the origin and also exactly like what have you researched in academia regarding it?
So I think it was I think it was a wake-up call almost to start learning about something that I experienced in my K through 12 experience in New Orleans, going to public school in New Orleans. It's definitely a perfect design, right? It took so long for it to come to this point, right? Privatized prisons weren't always flourishing as they were. You know, privatized prisons has been in the country for a long time, but that was for, you know, a specific population, right? But then it turned to trying to target children. And research states that third grade, as early as third grade, here in the state of Texas, when the STAR assessment starts, those third grade reading scores, that's what's used to predict future prison inmates and how many beds will be needed, how many new facilities will need to be built to house this new population of kids who obviously, if you don't have an education, if you don't graduate high school, your options are limited. And just like in school, how policing and zero tolerance things happen, it's the same thing in society. So simple crimes to a person who's not educated, who don't even have the money to get themselves out of simple crimes, whether it's traffic violations, this, that you can be caught up in the prison system for, then that's a revolving door for that person. So, but that started in education. And when I say a love for literacy and how that can be the turning point, how that can deter the school to prison pipeline, because there's behaviors associated with illiteracy. You see what I'm saying? There's reactions that's associated with illiteracy. You know, there's a mindset that's associated with illiteracy. As long as a person stays in that mindset, then the school to prison pipeline will continue to flourish. But you take a person like myself and you put them in Walden University and you give them access to a library under the mission of changing the world, changing society, then a lot of great ideas happen, a lot of good things can happen.
Quick side note, sources like the American University have explained that the school to prison pipeline refers to practices and policies that disproportionately place students of color into the criminal justice system, and that the biased applications of harsh disciplinary measures and overuse of referrals to law enforcement contribute to the problem, setting up vulnerable students for failure and ignoring underlying causes. The pipeline doesn't only affect racial minorities, but also children with disabilities.
Yeah, there's a lot of research behind what we're saying, and I think that's very important to let the listeners know. What the things we talk about is not top secret. It didn't take government clearance to find a lot of the research and a lot of the articles, a lot of information that a person should use to substantiate wherever they're coming from. I don't believe in coming from an emotional standpoint, but a very logical one that has a lot of research backing for others to do their homework.
For another example, a study done by National Association of School Psychologists concluded that students from African American and Latino families are more likely than their white peers to receive expulsion or out of school suspension as consequences for the same or similar problem behavior. And Vox says that students who are suspended in school are more likely to drop out or get arrested. So I think you probably find that interesting.
So a lot of what you were talking about, that is social conditioning, right? Social conditioning. Let's say you take a litter of pit bulls, right? I just say pit bulls because I love dogs, I love animals. I think there's a lot in the raising of animals and children that kind of run together. It's how they're raised, right? There's a lot of pit bull lovers out there that will tell you, you know, it's a good dog. It's how you raise them. So at an early age, if kids understand equality, and that's why that's a message for everybody to pick up from the elementary kids. I want kids in elementary understand what righteousness is, what equality is, because it's inherent. You understand fairness. You take two or 3-year-olds, set them next to each other. You give this one a small pile of candy. You give this one a big pile of candy, and instantly they're gonna, you know, eyes gonna start watering up because it's gone. Something is not right. Something is not right here. This isn't fair. So from that treatment all the way throughout school, I start to take on the treatment, right? So if I'm always doing something, I'm always getting in trouble, that must mean I'm a troublemaker. So then I start to take my seat in the classroom as either the troublemaker, the classroom clown, or the athlete. And that's where a lot of Black and Latino kids, they get placed within those places right there, right? I think that there should always be a way to come to a peaceful medium. But that's when you have people who are educated sitting at the table, who look different, but who understand all of these things affect us all. And we can either come together to change it, because we sure did come together to make its destruction. Right? America wasn't just destroyed by the white man. He didn't just do it by himself. Crack didn't get into our communities by itself. All right, the school to prison pipeline didn't just happen by the white man. There's a lot of our own people who are benefiting, right? Who are aristocrats, who are capitalists, who are capitalizing off of their own people, as it's been throughout history, right? And that can go all the way back to our slavery. Okay, there's not too many white people that can actually catch Africans, right? And I'm being a little facetious here, understanding the need for me to go and chase somebody, because I have that athleticism. So I mean, it goes back to Africans capture Africans, selling out to Europeans, and so it's always been a collective effort to do bad stuff, you know, to be destructive, to make systems that only benefit a few, right? If you want to say the 1% versus the 99%, it takes a collective effort. That 1% is just not white people. That's all people planning a dominant plan against the 99. Just think about it. It always blew my mind that you would have in a field 100 slaves, right? The overseers are also Black. The ones that's doing the whipping in the field, that's telling you work faster, you're not meeting your quota, we're not. You know, those a lot of times were the worst ones. In the movie Django, I think they had a great depiction of it with Samuel L. Jackson, right? He played that character to the fullest extent. Also going back to the movie Life, the character in Life who was the meanest ones to the slaves. That's just part of society, right? That's part of that social construct to inflict oppression on the group, and there's no better way to do it from one of your own. You know, it kind of hurts when it comes from one of your own. You take it differently, right? Because you may understand why this person who doesn't look like you, not from you, is treating you differently, but it hurts differently when it comes from your own. And a lot of what we talk about is so right now, as in you take what happened to Nipsey Hussle, right? Somebody who gave us the example of community, loving your own people, doing things for your people. Here's somebody who converted his life, changed it around, and wanted to do good, but was still killed in his own community at the hands of somebody who looked like him. So a lot of those things are the way the system has set it up for us, and the only way to break that is through having a conversation like this to say, hey, first of all, how we treat each other must change in our communities, in our schools, before we can expect others to change the way that they treat us.
Yeah, so this is, I think this question has to do with all that we're talking about, but I'm trying to understand this idea. So I, let's say like somebody from Latin America, like from my country, Venezuela, right? So I met a lot of Venezuelans at the border, and a lot of them came from the ones that I've met came from like the more poorer areas in my country, and I treated them as family. I absolutely love them. You know, you can tell, like, in general, like, when I meet people, like, I can tell, like, how they are, because, like, just like the way, like, they smile at you, like, they look at you, just like their soul, you know. And so you have people kind of judging others, like, because of, like, their education. If they have a lack of education, you know, like, oh, like, this person's not really worth it, you know, they can't even read. But it's like nowadays people just kind of shut others down because of the lack of opportunities they had. But I see the human as a human, like, you could be in the same position if it wasn't for that privilege that you had to go to this school.
So you said something that struck a reflection. The only difference from myself and going back to what I said earlier, that person with a high school degree who has the passion to educate kids, have the passion to work in the community, right? The only thing difference was somebody opened that door for me, right? And that person didn't look like me, right? That person's name was Buck Buchanan, right? He was a white man, a country man, at a time where nobody else wanted to give me a chance to play college football. This man, he spent time with me, he came to my school, spent time with my family, and he saw something in me as a person that was much more important than the athlete. So his thing was, I'm going to give you a chance because I want to see the person, the leader you could become, more so than the athlete. So, you know, it's going to take all of us to open those doors and to reach back and help people who may look like they're hopeless, may look like they don't have a bright future, because that's definitely where I was at 16 and 17 years old. You know, I wasn't always this, this bright-eyed, hopeful person. So again, having the opportunity to leave my community and go to college, it was an experience that so many of us could benefit from, right? It's almost like it's an awakening, it's a second chance. And that was basically my introduction to becoming literate, right? Because when I say literacy, I mean the ability to read, write, listen, speak, and think. All five of those are the pillars of literacy that I've taught over the decades. You have to be well versed in all five of those, right? So growing up in my community, a lot of those was lacking, right? The listening, right? Because you have to be so defensive. You have to be able to hold your own coming up in a lot of these inner city communities. So you don't want to listen because you figure you have it all down pat.
Why defensive?
You have to be defensive because of a lot of the, again, social conditions, right? In every city that crack hit, that's why when I visit somewhere, I feel at home when I'm in the inner city, because it's the same thing as it was in New Orleans. So every city that crack hit, whether it is Compton, whether it's Baltimore, whether it's Detroit, whether it's Cleveland, whether it's Chicago, Detroit, St. Louis, Gary, Indiana, Akron, Ohio, wherever crack hit, the same type of affliction, the same type of trouble, the same type of decisions that you have to make are present, right? You have to make a decision: do I stop at this red light, or do I run it late at night? Because I don't want somebody to ride up onside me and rob me. So they're always having to be on guard. A lot of that is because, again, the people in the community are not necessarily bad people. It's just we gotta do what we gotta do to survive, right? And when you're taking away a lot of the social programs, once again, you took it out of the schools. So I don't have the ability to, really become an electrician, right? A plumber, somebody who does the HVAC. This building we're sitting in right now feels nice and cool. Somebody has to make sure of that. So a lot of the opportunities, resources, it wasn't in the community. So again, you had a choice whether to be a rapper, a gangster basically or an athlete. And it really takes being defensive and being competitive in all three of those, right? The athlete got to outcompete the other athlete, right? The entertainer got to out-entertain the other one, and the gangster got to out-gangster the other one. And that's what we were left with after crack. So when I say alternative means of education, I think it needs to happen in these same communities. So the community centers such as the one I represent, the ones that we partner with, this needs to be duplicated around the country. So that's like my life mission now, is to go into the communities like I was raised in, where there isn't much hope, right? How can we have hope? How can I have hope when I lost my first friend at 11, 12 years old, killed over the backpack? We wore a certain type of backpack in my community and somebody else killed him over the backpack, right? How can we be hopeful when Nipsey's blood is on the ground? There's somebody, how can we be hopeful after examples of that, after examples of George Floyd? How can we be hopeful? So instilling hope back in the community is like my life mission, and that's something that I really am thankful that people like you are helping me spread that mission and link up with others. So shout out Buck Buchanan. Every Father's Day he gets a text, "What up, Pop?" Happy Father's Day. And I love this man dearly. Big jolly white guy. Again, gave me an opportunity to go to college in Alexandria, Louisiana, Pineville specifically, to play football, and that's where I met a lot of different people. So when I speak, I really am speaking for the people and from a viewpoint of the people. I'm not only speaking from my community. Yes, I stand for my community because somebody got to fight for them. So yeah, I stand for my community for sure, all day, every day. But the message is a message, a collective message, because I've been around enough different people. I have enough people who love me from different races, who I love them, who we understand each other, who we've shared locker rooms together, we've shared meals with, we shared beds. I've shared beds with so many different people. And that experience coming through colleges what led me to my professional life. I had a tryout with the New Orleans Saints in 2009. Of course, that was unsuccessful, or I wouldn't be sitting here now. If I would have made it to the NFL and went that route. But that's showing that God always has a plan, right? So my plan was always His plan. I thought it was to make it to the NFL and to play professional sports. No, it was actually to become a teacher, influence kids, inspire kids, and to do it on a larger scale.
So did you come into university with a scholarship, or how did you get into the university that you went to?
So it was a mixture of football scholarship and different awards and whatnot, different fellowships and grants and stuff like that. Again, that I was able to go to college.
And then you moved from Louisiana to Houston to teach. How? Your mother was involved in that, right?
Yes. So again, after graduation, I moved back to New Orleans, and I wanted to stay there even after my trial with the Saints. I didn't want to leave home. Here I am with all this education, but my environment was drawing me back, and I kind of wanted to stay there. But at the time, right after Katrina, there was no jobs. There wasn't many jobs before, but even for a person with a college degree working fast food, it wasn't many jobs. So my mom she convinced me to just come and try to be a teacher, come and try to move to Houston. In my mind, I had never, really saw myself there, working with kids like that. What do I want to do that for?
Yes.
I guess I had the average thing. What do I want to work with bad kids for? And this goes back to Buck Buchanan and another one of my college coaches, Dennis Dunn. Shout out Coach Dunn, the legend. Those guys made me be a leader. Because I came to college with, my New Orleans swag. I'm gonna do me. Stay out my way, make way. But they said you have something in you that others want to follow you, others want to be around you, and we're going to make you bring that out. We're going to make you be a leader of this team. So at the age of 19, 20, I was basically a leader of others my age, and at times there would be older people that's on, on the football team, 26, 27, 28, grown men, Then I'm the captain of the team. I'm the one that's setting the example of how do you do the right thing. Right? What does it look like to get up and go to class every day on time to complete your assignments? So they kind of moved me into that role of leadership without me knowing it. I'm thinking I'm gonna be, big time college athlete, which I was. They're kind of good. But the more important thing was the leader that they shaped me to be of all people.
And then your mom suggested to be a teacher, and then you got to Houston. I'm guessing you got a job.
August, yeah, I got a job in August.
And how did it feel like to just kind of completely change your life into that realm? Like how were you first taking it when you got there? So
my transition was easy because it was aided by a mentor. Right, shout out Mr. Lucky, Cedric Lucky, one of my best friends. My first day on the job, he actually came up to me like, hey, I heard we had another brother in the building. How you doing? Nice to meet you. Let me show you the way. So from meeting him, the transition into being in a professional realm was kind of easier, right? I'm used to being, waking up in sweats, just a college kid, a college athlete at that, where basically everything is at your doorstep. If you're good, we're gonna make this easy for you, But in the real world, you have to almost conform, right? Get on the schedule, punch a clock, and do all those things. So he helped me out get into the professional world. But it was the kids that I met there, a group of second graders who really put this battery pack in me to make the world a better place, because they deserved it. Because I saw hope. I saw bright eyes in these inner city kids, because it's elementary. So the thug hadn't set in yet. I want to be a gangster, that hadn't set in yet. It's just a group of second graders, white, black, all looking at me, talking trash to me, and I'm talking trash to them. And I fell in love with it.
If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, and do not forget to subscribe and to watch more of my diverse interviews and also all the other content I make, because it's not the only thing I do. I tend to research and analyze other things, so please support my channel, and see you on the next video.